Hey guys, welcome back. Today we're going to talk about fractions, simplifying before adding or subtracting. Now, just because we simplify before adding or subtracting does not mean we still don't need to check our final answer to see if it is in fact in simplest form. But this is a way to help minimize the large number multiplication sometimes that we have to do. So what I'm first going to do is I'm going to show you the traditional way or my crosswise multiplication way, and then I'm going to show you how to simplify before adding or subtracting. So if you remember in one of our video before this, we cross multiply the numerator of the first and then the denominator of the second, okay? And we write that above the numerator. And then we take the numerator of the second and multiply it by the denominator of the first, and we write that above the second fraction. Now we have an addition symbol here, which means we will add those two fractions. And then if you remember, we take the two denominators and we multiply them together. And here we get 27. So when we add these pieces up, we have 9 plus 12 over 27, which gives us 21 over 27. Now 3 will go into both 21 and 27. 3 goes into 21 7 times, and 3 goes into 27 9 times. So our final answer becomes 7/9. And this is how we do it without finding the least common denominator, or also how we add fractions using the crosswise multiplication method. Here, I'm going to use the technique of simplifying before adding or subtracting to this fraction again, but also still using the crosswise multiplication method. Okay, so here what do I notice about 3 and 9? They share a common factor of 3. I'm going to factor out the 3. 3 and divide it by 3, and what do I have left? Yep, 1. Okay, and then I take the 9 and factor out the 3, so 9 divided by 3 gives me 3. Now these are my new denominators, okay? So when I use the crosswise multiplication method, I'm going to use the new denominators, okay? Let's apply the crosswise multiplication. I'm going to take the numerator and multiply it by the new denominator and write that above my first fraction, so that's going to be 3. And then I'm going to take my numerator of my second fraction and multiply it by my new denominator and write that above my second fraction. Now I'm adding these two fractions here, you can see. So I'm going to add my two fractions. Now this is where it becomes a little different. What I'm going to do is it doesn't matter the order, and here's what I mean. But I have to take an old denominator and multiply it by a new denominator, okay? And it has to be in the crosswise method, and it doesn't matter. I can do the 3 times 3, and that gives me 9, or I can do the 9 times 1, and that also gives me 9. If you did the factoring out or the reducing correctly, this crosswise multiplication should be equal. The product of this 3 and this 3 should equal the 9 times 1, and it does. I like to deal with easier numbers, so I'm going to actually multiply the 9 times 1, and that's going to give me 9. So my new denominator is going to be 9. My next step is going to be adding my numerators. So I have 3 plus 4 divided by my new denominator, which is 9. So this is 7/9. And we can see here that they're exactly the same. We just did it a little differently. Okay. All right. Now let's apply this same principle to this fraction. First, let's do it the way that we have known using crosswise multiplication first, okay? So I'm going to take the crosswise multiply this direction. So I have 5 times 4 is 20. And then when I cross multiply the other direction, get 6 times 3 is 18. But I am subtracting, see here, I'm subtracting here, so I'm going to subtract those two. And then I'm going to multiply the two denominators together, so it gives me 24. Now when I write this out, I get 20 minus 18 divided by 24, or 20 minus 18 gives me 2 over 24, and this reduces down to 1/12. Now let's use our reducing before adding or subtracting first. So what do I notice about 6 and 4? What common factor do they have? Yeah, they have 2. So if I factor out a 2 out of the 6, what do I have left, right? 6 divided by 2 gives me 3. Great. Now, if I take 4 and divide it by 2, what do I have left? 2. That's right. Now what I'm going to do is in my crosswise multiplication, I'm going to multiply the numerator of the first times the new denominator. Okay. So 5 times 2 gives me 10. Then I'm going to multiply the other direction, my numerator in my second fraction times my new denominator of my first fraction. So 3 times 3 is 9. I am subtracting here, so I'll put my subtraction sign there. And then I'm going to multiply. It doesn't matter. If I multiply the 6 times 2, that gives me 12. Or if I multiply the 4 times 3, that also gives me 12. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just multiply these two together, the 3 and the 4, and that will give me 12. Now when I write all of this out, I have 10 minus 9 divided by 12. 10 minus 9 gives me 1 divided by 12. I hope this is starting to make sense now. There's a kind of a lot going on, but after a couple more tries, I think you guys are going to have a better understanding of how to do these. All right, first we're going to do this the long way, and then we'll use the simplifying before adding or subtracting. So I'm going to take my crosswise multiplication this direction. I have 5 times 27. So we have 5 times 2 is 10, and 5 times 7 is 35. So we have 135 there. When I cross multiply the other direction, I have 1 times 18. This will give me 18. And I am subtracting. Now I need to multiply the denominators together. 1 times 2 is 2, and I know that's in the hundreds place, so that's going to be 2 here. Then I have 1 times 7, so it's going to give me 7D. Okay. Then I have 8 times 2, so this is 8's in the ones place, and this is in the tens place, so 2 times 8 is 16. Then I have 8 times 7. These are both in the ones place, so that's 56. So I have 56 here. Now what I do is from here, I kind of add going this direction. I'll add this column, and this column. Okay. So 2 plus 1 gives me 3. I could write that down, but I'm going to wait because I know that I'm going to have a carryover from my tens place. So 7 plus 6 is 13, plus 5 gives me 18. Then I had carry my 1, so this becomes 48. So we have 480, and then I have only a 6 in my 1. So 18 times 27 gives us 486. And if you want to learn how to multiply this in your head without using a calculator, I will link in the cards above a video to crosswise vertically and crosswise multiplication if you're interested in learning that. So continuing on here, let's write out what we have remaining. So we have 135 minus 18 divided by 486. So we have 135 minus 18 divided by 486. So when I subtract 18 from 135, I have, let's see, 100. 3 minus 1 is 2, but I'm going to have I'm going to have to borrow, so I'm going to put a 1 down, and then 8 from 15 is 7, divided by 486. So I have 117 over 486. I know we have to simplify this. So let's see here. Is this divisible by 9? Let me see. If we have 1 plus 1 is 2, plus 7 is 9. Okay, so because my digit sum is equal to 9, I know that the numerator is divisible by 9. And let's check my denominator. So I have 4 plus 8 is 12. 12 plus 6 is 18. And then 1 plus 8 is 9. So my digit sum there is also 9. Again, if you want to learn how quickly to determine whether a number is divisible by 9, I'll link a video in the cards. That way you can check out that video so you can quickly determine whether a number is divisible by 9. So we know that both of these numbers are divisible by 9. So let's go ahead and reduce this. So 9 will go into 11 once with a remainder of 2, and then 9 goes into 27 3 times. Okay. 9 goes into 48 5 times. 9 times 5 is 45, so I have a remainder of 3. And then 9 goes into 36 4 times with a remainder of 0. So now my reduced fraction is 13/54. This cannot be reduced any further. This 3 does not end in an even number like this one does. The digit sum here is 4. This digit sum here is 9. So it's not divisible by 9. So it doesn't end in 0 either. So this fraction here is in simplest form. Okay. Now let's apply the simplifying before adding or subtracting and see if it doesn't make this a little bit easier. Okay. So let's see here. What common factor does 18 and 27 have? Yeah, 9. So to divide 18 by 9, I have 2, right? And if I divide 27 by 9, I'm left with 3. These are a whole lot easier numbers to deal with, aren't they? All right, now let's go ahead and go through our crosswise multiplication. So 5 times 3 is 15. And when I go the other way, 2 times 1 is 2, right? Now I can crosswise either direction. I can either go 27 times 2, this gives me 54, or I can go 18 times 3, which also gives me 54. So it really doesn't matter, but 2 times 27 is a little bit easier to see. that it is in fact equal to 54. So I know that my denominator is 54, and I am subtracting, right? Because we are subtracting here. So when we write this out, I get 15 minus 2 divided by 54. So when I do the math, I get 15 minus 2 is 13 divided by 54. All right, so we see here that both of these are the same, right? 13/54. Now I don't know about you, but I would much prefer this second method, simplifying before adding or subtracting as opposed to the first method. Although neither are wrong, as long as you're applying the mathematical principles correctly. All right, let's take a look at our last example. So we're going to crosswise multiply the 7 and the 60, which is going to give us 420. And then I'm going to cross multiply the other direction, okay? 11 times 36 is 396. And if you want to learn how to multiply by 11, the little simple trick is multiply by 11. I'll link a video in the cards above showing you how to multiply numbers by 11. Then I'm going to multiply these two denominators here. And I know that I'm going to have a 0 in the ones place, so I'm just going to lay that out there. 6 times 3 is 18, and since it's pretty big, I know that actually it's going to be like 1,800 something. Then what I'm going to do is I have the 3. I know that that's going to be 0, so I don't have to worry about that too much. And then the 6 times 6. So I have 6 in the ones place times 6 in the 10 place is 36 is 360. So my 3 goes here and my 6 is in the tens place. So when I add this together going this direction, I end up with 2160 as my final answer. So 36 times 60 is 2,160, and you're more than welcome to check that on the calculator. And we are subtracting here, so I'm going to put my subtraction symbol there. So we have 420 minus 396 divided by 2160. 420 minus 396 is 24. And then I have my denominator, 2160. And no, this is not simplified because that's the last thing I do. I have to simplify. So, okay, well, I know that this ends in a 4 and this ends in a 0. So this is divisible by 2. Okay, so great, it's divisible by 2. But is it also divisible by 3 maybe? So the digit sum here to here is 6. Well, 6 is divisible, but that digit sum is 6, which means it's divisible by 3. And if I have 2 plus 1 is 3, 3 plus 6 is 9, 9 is divisible by 3, then I know that since this passes the test for divisibility for 2 and 3, then I know it's divisible by 6. And if you want to learn how to do that, I will link a video up in the cards above, and that way you can learn how to check the divisibility by 6. But for now, we know that this is divisible by 6, so let's go ahead and reduce this. So if I reduce 24 by 6, basically I'm dividing 24 by 6, I'm left with 4. And if I divide 2160 by 6, 6 goes into 21 3 times with a remainder of 3. And 6 goes into 36 6 times, and then 6 goes into 0 0 times. So this is 4 divided by 360. Now I get to reduce again, but I also recognize here that the 4 will actually go into 36. So if I just reduce this by 4, I am left with 1 over, right, because 4 goes into 4 one time, and 4 goes into 36 9, and then 4 goes into 0 0 times. So I'm left with my simplified answer is 1/90. All right, so now let's go ahead and subtract these using the simplifying before adding or subtracting method. 6 will go into both 36 and 60 evenly. So if I take 36 and divide it by 6, I'm left with 6. And if I take 60 and divide it by 6, I'm left with 10. But hey, look at here. So 6 and 10, they still have a common factor. They still have a common factor of 2. So I can further reduce this by 2. So 6 divided by 2 leaves me with 3, and 10 divided by 2 leaves me 5, okay? And that's okay if you have to reduce several times. We'll take the most prime or relative prime sometimes numbers, okay? So now we can use our crosswise multiplication method, but I'm going to take the 5 and multiply it by the 7. So this gives me 35. And I'm going to take the 11 and multiply it by the 3. I'm left with 33. Well, that gives me 33. Then I can either take 60 and multiply it by 3, or I can take 5 and multiply it by 36. Quite honestly, I kind of like simple multiplication, so I think I'm going to multiply the 60 by the 3, which is going to give me 180. So when I write this out, I have 35 minus 33 divided by 180. 35 minus 33 gives me 2 over my denominator. Now I see that this 2 here, 2 will go into 180 because this ends in an even or a 0 number. So I know I can do that. So when I reduce this, it gives me 2 goes into 2 one time, and 2 goes into 180 90 times. So my reduced fraction is 190. So 70/36 minus 11/60 becomes 1/90. But I hope this makes sense. Now you have a little bit more of a familiarity with reducing your fraction before adding or subtracting. You can see how it makes the math a little bit easier. You don't have these large numbers to multiply with. But if you do have large numbers to multiply with, and if you just click on the link in the cards above, I'll show you how to multiply using vertically and crosswise multiplication method, where you can typically do it in 1 to maybe 2 lines max. It'll help with your multiplication as well as not having to write down all these additional steps. But anyway, if you found today's video helpful, please give it a like, a thumbs up, share this video, and subscribe for more videos like this. And until the next video, you guys have a great day.